Dawn is breaking. Not in one place. Not for one person. Right now, a warrior is picking up his sword. A farmer is putting on his sandals. And a merchant is counting his coins before the rest of the world wakes up. Same sky. 3 completely different lives. This is feudal Japan. And this is just one ordinary day. Feudal Japan had a strict social order, 4 tiers, and your entire life, what you wore, where you lived, who you could marry, how you died, was determined by which tier you were born into. At the top, the shogun and the lords who served him, the daimyo. Below them, the samurai, warriors and administrators. Below the samurai, farmers and artisans, the people who actually made things. And at the very bottom, officially, merchants, the people who sold things. Here's the irony. We'll get to that. Our 3 characters today lived very different lives in very different places. Kenji, our samurai, served a lord in the mountain domains of central Japan. His world was one of discipline, duty, and the constant shadow of war. Haru, our farmer, worked the rice paddies of a small rural village. His world was hard ground, longer days than most people today would tolerate, and a fragile relationship with the weather. And Daisuke, our merchant, operated in a jokamachi, a castle town. His world was noise, commerce, secrets, and survival. 4:30 in the morning. Kenji is already awake. Not because someone told him to be. Not because he was excited. Because this is what he does. Every single day. A samurai's morning was not soft. It was a practice. In the same way that a blade is sharpened, not just before a battle, but every morning. Because you never know when the battle will come. Before the sun is fully up, Kenji is in the courtyard. Kenjutsu, the art of the sword, was not just combat training. It was meditation in motion. Every cut, every stance, every repeated movement was an act of refinement. Most samurai would never fight in a major battle. The actual wars of feudal Japan were terrible, but infrequent. What samurai trained for day after day was the possibility of war and the discipline that came from preparing for something that might never come. After training, the tea ceremony. Not every samurai practiced it formally, but the principle was the same. Stillness. Presence. Doing one thing completely. Then, the armor. Putting on a samurai's armor was not a solo act. It required an attendant, and it could take up to an hour. Every piece had a name. Every piece had a purpose. By the time Kenji stepped outside, fully armored, he was no longer just a man. He was a symbol. A samurai's day was largely defined by his lord. The daimyo was not just a boss. He was, in the feudal structure, the center of a samurai's entire moral universe. Loyalty to the daimyo came above almost everything else. Above personal comfort, above financial interest, sometimes even above family. This relationship was called giri, duty or obligation, and it ran in both directions. The lord fed, housed, and protected his samurai. In return, the samurai gave everything he had. Everything. We often see the samurai as an icon. The armor, the sword, the stoic expression. But Kenji was also a man who got hungry, who worried, who missed people, who on some mornings probably didn't want to get up at 4:30. Bushido, the way of the warrior, asked him to hold all of that privately, to present only discipline to the world, most of the time, he did. 4 a.m. In Haru's village, the day begins before the samurai even opens his eyes. This is not a dramatic fact. It's just how farming works. The rice doesn't care about your sleep schedule. The fields don't negotiate. Haru leaves his wife and 2 children still sleeping and steps outside into the cold dark. Rice farming in feudal Japan was hard. Not hard the way a difficult meeting is hard. Hard the way that 10 hours spent at the waist in cold water is hard. Rice paddies had to be flooded, planted by hand, tended constantly, and harvested at exactly the right moment. Too early or too late, and the crop fails. And if the crop fails, the family doesn't eat. Haru knew every inch of his fields. He knew the soil's moods. He knew what the clouds meant in July and what the wind meant in October. This kind of knowledge doesn't get written down in most history books, but it was as sophisticated as anything happening in the castle. At some point during the year, a figure would arrive in the village, the tax collector. In feudal Japan, rice wasn't just food, it was currency, and the government collected it directly. In some regions and periods, farmers paid as much as 40% of their entire harvest. In bad years, that could mean the line between survival and starvation was drawn by someone who had never worked a field in his life. Haru's relationship with authority was simple. Comply, survive, say nothing. By evening, the fields were quiet. Haru walked home. Not quickly. He was too tired for quickly. But steadily. The way a person walks when they know what's waiting for them. His wife had cooked miso soup and rice. The children were awake. The fire was going. In the full sweep of feudal Japanese history, with its wars and emperors and great lords, this was also history. This fire, this bowl, this family. Here's a strange thing about feudal Japanese society. The people who moved money, who connected supply to demand, who financed armies, who made the whole economy actually function, were officially at the bottom of the social order. Merchants were seen as parasites in the official Confucian view. They produced nothing. They only profited from others' work. Daisuke had heard this argument many times. He found it amusing. Daisuke's shop in the castle town sold fabric, officially. But like most successful merchants of the period, he also dealt in information. He knew who needed money and who had too much. He knew which samurai families were struggling and which daimyo was planning something. None of this was spoken directly. It didn't need to be. Every morning, he opened his doors, bowed deeply to every customer, regardless of class, and waited. What protected Daisuke was not a sword. It was the fact that everyone needed him. Farmers needed credit to survive bad harvests. Samurai needed loans to maintain their estates. Most of them were, by the later feudal period, quietly in debt to merchants. Even daimyo needed financing from military campaigns. Daisuke couldn't carry a weapon legally. He couldn't hold political office. He couldn't wear silk in public without risking a fine. But he held the strings of almost every important relationship in the town. Power doesn't always look like power. Late in the afternoon, Kenji came to Daisuke's shop, not to buy fabric. This happened more than the official histories like to admit. A samurai, officially above the merchant in every way, privately needing what the merchant had. Neither man acknowledged the awkwardness. They discussed the weather. They discussed the harvest. They agreed on terms. As Kenji left, he did not bow. Daisuke did not expect him to. By evening, the same sun was setting on all three of them. Kenji was cleaning his sword in silence. The blade had not been drawn today. Tomorrow it might be. Or it might not. Haru was walking home from the fields. His back hurt. His feet were cold. His children would be awake. Daisuke was closing his shop, reviewing the day's accounts in his head, quietly satisfied. 3 people. No connection to each other. No knowledge of each other, perhaps. And yet entirely dependent on the same system. A system that needed all of them, even if it didn't treat all of them fairly. Feudal Japan lasted, in various forms, for nearly 7 centuries. 7 centuries of samurai getting up before dawn, of farmers bending over rice paddies, of merchants quietly building the networks that made the whole world run. History is often told through battles and emperors, and those stories matter. But so does the story of someone who got up at 4 in the morning because the rice needed planting. Someone who bowed to every customer because respect cost nothing but meant everything. These are human stories, and there are more of them. If you want to keep exploring, subscribe. We put out a new story every week, and if this one meant something to you, share it with someone who might feel the same. See you next time.